HOA president thought she could enforce her rules on everyone. She walked into my yard with garden shears and cut my daughter's medical oxygen line. My little girl started turning blue. I made one phone call. 5 minutes later, 2 Black Hawk helicopters landed in our neighborhood. Her life was over. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. My name is Marcus Rivera, and I am a retired Special Forces medic. I spent 22 years serving my country in places most people never hear about. I have seen things that would break most people. I have saved lives under enemy fire. I have carried wounded brothers through the desert. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the war I would fight in my own backyard against a woman named Patricia Henderson. My daughter Emma is 7 years old. She has the brightest smile you have ever seen and a laugh that sounds like music. She also has a rare lung condition that requires supplemental oxygen 24 hours a day. A thin plastic tube runs from a medical-grade oxygen concentrator in our house, through a small hole we drilled in the wall, to wherever Emma wants to play in our backyard. That oxygen line is not just medical equipment. It is my daughter's lifeline. Without it, Emma struggles to breathe within minutes. Her lips turn blue. Her tiny fingers go cold. Panic fills her eyes. I have seen that panic too many times during her hospital stays. It is a look that haunts my dreams. We moved to Riverside Oaks 2 years ago. It seemed perfect. Good schools. Safe streets. A big backyard where Emma could play. The homeowners association had rules, sure, but they seemed reasonable. Keep your lawn neat. No loud parties after 10. Paint your house in approved colors. Normal stuff. Then Patricia Henderson became the HOA president. Patricia was in her mid-50s with blonde hair that never moved and clothes that looked like she ironed them while wearing them. She drove a white Lexus that she washed every single day. Her house looked like a photo from a magazine. Not a single leaf was ever on her lawn. Not one flower was out of place. She started with small complaints. My grass was half an inch too tall. My trash cans were visible from the street for 15 minutes past the pickup time. My daughter's wheelchair ramp was not the right shade of beige. I fixed everything. I am a patient man. The military teaches you patience. But Patricia was not satisfied. She wanted perfection. More than that, she wanted control. She wanted everyone to know she was in charge. The complaints got worse. Emma's medical equipment on the back porch was an eyesore. The oxygen line running along the side of the house was not permitted. The small sign we put up saying, "Medical equipment, do not touch," was not approved by the architectural committee. I explained the situation calmly. I showed her Emma's medical records. I got a letter from Emma's doctor explaining why the oxygen setup was necessary. I even offered to paint the oxygen line to match the house. Patricia's response was cold. Rules are rules, Mr. Rivera. Your daughter's medical needs do not exempt you from HOA regulations. You have 30 days to remove all non-compliant equipment or face fines. My wife Sarah cried that night. Not because of the fines. We could pay those. She cried because Patricia looked at the documentation about our sick daughter and felt nothing. No compassion. No humanity. Just rules. I tried working with the HOA board. Most of them were reasonable people. But Patricia controlled the meetings with an iron fist. She shut down any discussion. She quoted bylaws and regulations. She made it clear that any board member who sided with us would face her wrath. The fines started. $50 a day for noncompliance. Then the threatening letters. Then the certified mail saying we were in violation and could face a lien on our house. I contacted a disability rights lawyer. He said we had a strong case under the Fair Housing Act. Patricia could not enforce HOA rules that discriminated against Emma's disability. But a lawsuit would take months. Maybe years. And it would cost thousands of dollars we had already spent on Emma's medical care. Meanwhile, my daughter was caught in the middle. Emma knew something was wrong. She heard Sarah crying. She saw the angry letters. She started asking if we had to move. If she was causing problems. If people were mad at her because she was sick. That broke my heart more than anything Patricia did to us. I stayed calm. I kept my temper. 22 years in special forces teaches you discipline. I responded to every letter professionally. I documented everything. I followed every rule I could follow while keeping Emma safe. But Patricia kept pushing. She started coming by our house. Not to talk. Just to stand at the property line and stare. Taking photos with her phone. Writing notes on her clipboard. She called the city inspector 4 times, hoping to find some violation. She filed noise complaints about Emma's medical equipment, even though the concentrator was quieter than a refrigerator. Other neighbors started apologizing to us privately. They said Patricia was out of control. They said she did this to everyone she did not like. But no one would stand up to her publicly. They were scared of becoming her next target. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was a Saturday in July. Beautiful day. Temperature was perfect. Emma wanted to play outside with her dolls. She had been feeling good all week. Her oxygen levels were stable. Her doctor was pleased with her progress. For a few hours, we could almost pretend she was a normal 7-year-old kid. Sarah set up Emma's play area on the grass. We checked the oxygen line like we always did. Secure connection at the house. No kinks or bends. Smooth flow all the way to Emma's nasal cannula. Everything was perfect. I went inside to make lunch. Sarah was in the front yard watering flowers. Emma was playing happily, singing a song to her dolls. That is when Patricia struck. I heard Emma scream. Not a normal kid scream. A terrified, gasping scream. I dropped everything and ran. The back door was only 20 feet from where Emma was playing. I covered that distance in 2 seconds. Emma was on her knees, clutching her chest. Her lips were already turning blue. Her eyes were wide with panic. She was making horrible gasping sounds, trying to breathe. The oxygen line lay on the grass next to her. Cut clean through. The end was still hissing oxygen into the air. Patricia stood at the property line, garden shears in her hand. She was not running. She was not hiding. She was just standing there, watching my daughter suffocate. You had 30 days, Patricia said calmly. You refused to comply. I removed the non-permitted equipment. I do not remember crossing the yard to Emma. I do not remember scooping her up. Training took over. Years of combat medicine kicked in. I assessed her condition in seconds. Severe respiratory distress. Oxygen saturation dropping fast. Minutes until loss of consciousness. I ran into the house, carrying Emma. She was gasping like a fish out of water. Her little fingers dug into my arm. Her eyes locked on mine, begging me to help her. Daddy, can't breathe. I got her to the backup oxygen tank we kept for emergencies. I put the mask on her face. I cranked the flow to maximum. Breathe, baby. Slow breaths. Daddy's got you. Breathe. Sarah appeared in the doorway, confused. She saw Emma's blue lips and the terror in her eyes. What happened? Call 911, I said, keeping my voice calm for Emma's sake. Tell them we have a child in respiratory distress. Then call the base. Sarah's eyes went wide. The base? Marcus, are you sure? Call the base, I repeated. Tell them code black. They'll understand. Code Black was not a real military code. It was something my old unit came up with. It meant one of our families was in danger. When you heard Code Black, you came running. No questions asked. No hesitation. Sarah made the calls while I stayed with Emma. Her color was coming back slowly. The backup oxygen was helping. But she was still gasping. Still terrified. Her whole body was shaking. I held her close and whispered in her ear. "You're okay, baby. Daddy's got you. You're safe now. Everything's going to be okay." Patricia walked into my house without knocking. She stood in my living room, still holding those garden shears. Still completely calm. "That equipment was in violation of HOA regulations," she said. "I had every right to remove it. You'll be receiving a fine for the unauthorized hole in your exterior wall as well." I looked at this woman. This creature who had just tried to kill my daughter over HOA rules. I have faced enemy combatants who showed more humanity than Patricia Henderson showed in that moment. I stood up, carefully moving Emma to the couch. I walked toward Patricia. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to do violence. To make her feel a fraction of the terror she had caused my child. 22 years of training in how to hurt people efficiently. To end threats quickly. But I am not that man anymore. I will not let someone like Patricia turn me back into that man. "Get out of my house," I said quietly. "I'll leave when I'm ready. I'm within my rights as HOA president to inspect. Get out of my house." The roar came from somewhere deep inside me. A voice I had not used since Afghanistan. The voice that made enemy fighters drop their weapons. The voice of a man who was done being patient. Patricia actually stepped back. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. "You just attempted to murder my daughter," I said, my voice dropping back to a deadly calm. "You cut her medical oxygen line. She could have died. You will leave my house now. You will not come back. And you will pray that the police get here before my friends do." "Your friends?" Patricia tried to sound confident. "I'm not afraid of you or your military buddies. I know my rights. The HOA." The sound of helicopters cut her off. It started as a distant thump thump thump. Then it got louder. And louder. The windows started rattling. Pictures shook on the walls. The sound became deafening. Patricia's face went white. I walked to the front window. 2 Black Hawk helicopters were descending toward the empty lot across from my house. Not circling. Not passing by. Landing. What is that?" Patricia stammered. "Those are my friends," I said. The Black Hawks touched down. Before the rotors even stopped spinning, men poured out. 12 of them. All in civilian clothes. All moving with the same purposeful efficiency. These were not weekend warriors. These were operators. The kind of men who could be drinking beer at a barbecue 1 minute and clearing a hostile building the next. Leading them was Captain Mike Chen. We served together for 8 years. He was the kind of man who would run into hell with a water pistol if his brothers needed him. When Sarah called the base with Code Black, Mike did not ask questions. He grabbed everyone he could find and commandeered 2 Black Hawks. The military tends to look the other way when one of their retired heroes needs help. Especially a Special Forces medic who saved dozens of lives over 22 years of service. Mike walked through my front door like he owned the place. 6 more operators followed him in. They spread out through my house, securing it like enemy territory. Professional. Efficient. Terrifying. Mike took one look at Emma on the couch, still struggling to breathe, and his jaw clenched. Then he looked at Patricia. "Who are you?" he asked. "I'm Patricia Henderson, president of the Riverside Oaks Homeowners Association. I demand to know. Did you cut that child's oxygen line?" Patricia's mouth opened and closed. For once, she had no words. I asked you a question, ma'am. Mike's voice was polite but carried an edge that could cut steel. Did you cut the medical oxygen line of that 7-year-old girl? The equipment was in violation of HOA regulations. I had every right. That's a yes, Mike said. He turned to one of his men. Thompson, get the FBI on the line. We have someone who just committed attempted murder of a child. Also get CID. I want Army criminal investigation on this immediately since this involves one of ours. You can't do that. Patricia was losing her composure. I know my rights. You have no authority here. This is a civilian matter. Ma'am, you cut the oxygen line of a disabled child, Mike said. That's attempted murder. That's also a violation of federal disability rights laws. And since this was done to the dependent daughter of a retired Special Forces medic, trust me when I say that every federal law enforcement agency is going to be very interested in this case. The police arrived 2 minutes later. 4 cars. Then an ambulance. Then a fire truck. My quiet suburban street looked like a disaster zone. 2 Black Hawks. Emergency vehicles everywhere. Military operators standing guard. Neighbors coming out of their houses to see what was happening. The paramedics took over Emma's care. Her oxygen levels were stabilizing, but they wanted to transport her to the hospital for observation. Sarah went with her in the ambulance. Before they closed the doors, Emma reached for me. Daddy, I was so scared. I know, baby. But you're safe now. Daddy's going to make sure no one ever scares you like that again. The police took Patricia into custody immediately. They found the cut oxygen line. They photographed it. They bagged the garden shears as evidence. They took statements from me, from Sarah before she left, from neighbors who had seen Patricia enter my backyard. But here is where things got interesting. A black SUV pulled up. Out stepped 2 FBI agents and 2 people from the Department of Justice. Apparently when you cut the oxygen line of a disabled child, you are not just dealing with local police. You have violated federal law. The Americans with Disabilities Act. The Fair Housing Act. Federal assault and attempted murder statutes. Patricia went from smug HOA president to federal defendant in about 10 minutes. The FBI agents interviewed me while military medics from the Black Hawks checked me over. They wanted to make sure I was okay after the stress and trauma. These were my brothers. They took care of their own. Agent Williams from the FBI sat across from me at my kitchen table. Mr. Rivera, can you walk me through everything Patricia Henderson has done since she became HOA president? I pulled out my documentation. Every letter. Every fine. Every threat. Every complaint. Every interaction. I had documented everything because my lawyer told me to. I handed the agent a folder that was 3 inches thick. This is documentation of 2 years of harassment, I said. All because Patricia decided she did not like having a disabled child in her perfect neighborhood. Agent Williams flipped through the folder. His expression got darker with each page. This is systematic harassment. This is disability discrimination. This is a pattern of behavior leading up to attempted murder. Can you make charges stick? I asked. She's going to claim she was just enforcing HOA rules. Mr. Rivera, she cut your daughter's oxygen line. A child nearly died. We have multiple witnesses. We have physical evidence. We have years of documented harassment. She's going away for a very long time. The DOJ attorneys agreed. They were already talking about federal charges that could carry 10 to 20 years in prison. Add in local attempted murder charges, and Patricia was looking at potentially life in prison. Mike sat down next to me after the FBI finished. How's Emma? Stable. Scared. But alive. Good. He put a hand on my shoulder. We've got 6 operators staying with you until this is resolved. Round-the-clock security. No one gets near your family without going through us. Mike, you don't have to. Yes, we do. You would do the same for any of us. You have done the same. Remember Kandahar? You ran across an open field under fire to pull me out after I got hit. You saved my life, Marcus. This is nothing. Tears burned in my eyes. I had not cried in 20 years. Not through deployments. Not through firefights. Not through watching brothers die. But sitting in my kitchen, surrounded by the men who would move heaven and earth to protect my family, I cried. Thank you, I whispered. Always, brother. Always. The next few days were insane. The story went viral. HOA president cuts disabled child's oxygen line was on every news channel. The video footage from my security cameras showed everything. Patricia walking into my yard. Patricia cutting the line. Patricia standing there watching Emma suffer. The public was outraged. The HOA received thousands of angry calls and emails. Every member of the board except Patricia resigned in shame. The property management company terminated their contract with Riverside Oaks. Patricia's lawyer tried to argue she was just enforcing rules. The judge denied bail, calling her a danger to the community. The prosecutor added charges every single day. Attempted murder. Assault. Child endangerment. Disability discrimination. Federal civil rights violations. Patricia's life unraveled. Her husband filed for divorce. Her children refused to speak to her. Her friends abandoned her. Her social media accounts were flooded with messages calling her a monster. She lost everything. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy in her downfall. Just numbness. Emma was my only concern. She had nightmares every night. She was afraid to go outside. She flinched whenever she heard someone in the yard. Sarah and I held her through the screaming fits. We reassured her over and over that she was safe. Child psychologists helped. So did the support of our friends and neighbors. But mostly, time and love healed Emma. Slowly, day by day, she started to smile again. Started to laugh. Started to play outside with Mike or one of the other operators always nearby, watching over her. The trial was 9 months later. I sat in that courtroom and listened to Patricia's lawyer try to paint her as a concerned citizen enforcing necessary rules. I watched him try to claim she did not know cutting the oxygen line would hurt Emma. Then the prosecutor played the security footage. Patricia cutting the line. Patricia watching Emma collapse. Patricia's cold statement, "You had 30 days." The jury deliberated for 45 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The judge gave her 25 years in federal prison. She would be 80 years old before she got out. Her life was over. Patricia Henderson, the judge said, "You targeted a disabled child out of nothing more than petty spite and obsession with control. You nearly killed a 7-year-old girl because her medical equipment offended your sense of aesthetics. You showed no remorse. No humanity. No compassion. You are a danger to society and do not deserve to walk freely among decent people." Patricia was led away in handcuffs. She did not look at me. Did not look at Emma, who sat in the front row with her oxygen tank. Just stared straight ahead, still believing she was the victim. The civil lawsuit came next. Our lawyer sued Patricia personally, sued the HOA, sued the property management company. We won $3 million. Enough to pay off our house. Enough to cover Emma's medical expenses forever. Enough to set up a foundation to help other families dealing with HOA disability discrimination. We used some of the money to move. Not far. Just to a house with no HOA. A place where Emma could play without worrying about rules. Where her medical equipment was just medical equipment, not a violation. Where she was just a kid. The Black Hawk crews became regular visitors. Mike and his unit adopted Emma as their unofficial mascot. They brought her presents. They told her stories about her daddy's service. They made her feel special and loved and protected. On Emma's 8th birthday, Mike arranged something special. He got permission to give Emma a ride in a Black Hawk. Nothing crazy. Just a gentle flight around the area with her medical equipment secured and a military medic on board. Emma's face when she looked out that helicopter window was worth everything. Pure joy. Pure wonder. Pure life. "Daddy," she said later, "why did Miss Patricia hate me so much?" I knelt down to her level. "Baby, Miss Patricia didn't hate you. She was just so worried about rules and control that she forgot to be a human being. She forgot that people matter more than regulations. She forgot that kindness is more important than perfection." Is she sorry now? I don't know, Emma. I hope so. But what matters is that you're safe. You're loved. And you're surrounded by people who would do anything to protect you. Like the Black Hawk guys. Exactly like the Black Hawk guys. Emma hugged me tight. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. Forever and always." 3 years have passed now. Emma is 10. She is doing well. Her condition is stable. She still needs oxygen, but new medical advances have given her more freedom. She goes to school. She has friends. She plays soccer on a special team for kids with medical needs. Patricia is still in prison. She will be for a long time. The other inmates know what she did. Child abusers do not have an easy time in prison. I do not take joy in that. I just feel nothing. Mike retired from active duty and moved near us. He and 6 other operators from that day formed a security company that specializes in protecting families dealing with harassment and discrimination. They donate their services to families who cannot afford private security. The Riverside Oaks HOA was dissolved. The neighborhood is better for it. People plant flowers without asking permission. They paint their houses colors they like. They live their lives without fear of petty tyrants with clipboards. And sometimes, usually on Saturday mornings when Emma is playing in our backyard with her oxygen line secured safely, I hear the distant sound of helicopters. Mike and his crew doing training flights. Emma always stops and waves. And somewhere up there, they wave back. Because that is what family does. That is what brothers do. They come when you call. They stand by your side. They protect what matters most. Patricia Henderson learned that the hard way. She thought she had power because she was HOA president. She thought rules and regulations made her important. She thought she could bully a disabled child without consequences. She was wrong. Because at the end of the day, I am just a father who loves his daughter. But I am also a man with brothers who would move heaven and earth to protect my family. I am a man who served with heroes who understand that some things are worth fighting for. And when you threaten one of our children, you are not just dealing with one angry parent. You are dealing with a whole community of warriors who will rain down hell to keep our families safe. Patricia cut my daughter's oxygen line at 10:15 a.m. on a Saturday morning. By 10:20 a.m., 2 Black Hawks had landed in my neighborhood. By 10:30 a.m., she was in federal custody. By 11 a.m., her life as she knew it was over. All because she forgot the most basic human principle: you do not hurt children. You do not threaten the helpless. You do not let rules become more important than humanity. Emma asks me sometimes if I am glad Patricia is in prison. I tell her the truth. I am not glad. I am not satisfied. I do not celebrate anyone's downfall. But I am grateful. Grateful that Emma survived. Grateful for brothers who came running when we needed them. Grateful for a justice system that took our case seriously. Grateful for every single day I get to watch my daughter grow up. That is enough for me. That has to be enough. Because at the end of all of this, the only thing that matters is that Emma is safe, healthy, and happy. Everything else is just noise. Patricia Henderson tried to take that away from us. She failed. And the thunder of Black Hawks landing in a suburban neighborhood is a sound she will remember for the rest of her life. A sound that reminds her that some battles you cannot win. Some people you cannot bully. Some children are protected by warriors who will never back down. Emma is playing outside right now. I can hear her laughing. Her oxygen line is secure. Mike is visiting and playing dolls with her because tough special forces operators still make time for tea parties with little girls who need protecting. And somewhere in the distance, I hear helicopters. Always watching. Always ready. Always there. That is what justice sounds like. That is what family sounds like. That is what love sounds like. And Patricia Henderson will spend the next 25 years listening to silence and remembering the day she learned that lesson the hardest way possible. But this story is not just about Patricia's downfall. It is about what came after. It is about how one terrible moment changed everything for the better. 6 months after Patricia went to prison, I got a call from a mother in Texas. Her name was Jennifer. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Her son had cerebral palsy and used a wheelchair. Their HOA was demanding they remove the wheelchair ramp because it was not aesthetically pleasing. They were threatening fines. Threatening liens. Threatening to take their home. Jennifer had seen our story on the news. She saw what happened to Patricia. She was calling to ask if there was any hope for families like hers. I told her about our foundation. I told her about Mike's security company. I told her that she was not alone. Within 48 hours, Mike and 2 operators were in Texas. They set up cameras around Jennifer's property. They attended the HOA meeting with her. They made it very clear that any attempt to harass this family would not go unpunished. The HOA backed down immediately. The wheelchair ramp stayed. Jennifer's son got to keep his independence. That was the first call. There have been hundreds since then. Families from all over the country dealing with HOA bullies who target disabled children and adults. Families who thought they had no power. Families who were ready to give up. We help them all. The foundation pays for lawyers. Mike's company provides security if needed. And sometimes, just sometimes, when an HOA president needs to understand they picked the wrong family to mess with, a Black Hawk does a low flyover during a neighborhood meeting. Perfectly legal training exercise. Pure coincidence. But very effective. Emma became the face of our foundation. She did not want to at first. She was shy about her oxygen tank. Shy about being different. But Sarah and I explained that her story could help other kids. That she could be a voice for children who felt powerless. Now Emma does interviews. She speaks at disability rights conferences. She talks to other kids who have medical equipment and feel embarrassed. She tells them they are not alone. She tells them they are strong. She tells them that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just keep breathing. She is amazing. My daughter is 10 years old and braver than most adults I know. The national media attention brought other changes too. Congress held hearings about HOA abuse and disability discrimination. New laws were passed. Stronger protections for families with disabled members. Criminal penalties for HOA board members who violate disability rights. Federal oversight of HOA organizations that have patterns of discrimination complaints. Patricia became the poster child for everything wrong with HOA culture. Her case was taught in law schools as an example of how petty power corrupts. Her actions led to real change that protected millions of families. She probably hates that. Knowing that her cruelty led to laws that prevent others like her from hurting people. That her legacy is not control and order, but protection for the vulnerable. I testified before Congress twice. Once about our experience. Once about the broader problem of HOA abuse. Senators and representatives listened. They asked questions. They took notes. And then they acted. One senator told me privately, "Your daughter's near-death experience may have saved thousands of other children from similar harassment." That matters, Mr. Rivera. That means something. He was right. It does mean something. But I would trade all the laws and all the reforms to go back in time and prevent Emma from ever experiencing that terror. To erase the memory of her gasping for air. To remove the nightmares she still has sometimes. But we cannot change the past. We can only shape the future. Mike's company has grown to 30 operators now. All retired military. All dedicated to protecting families from bullies and abusers. They have stopped dozens of situations from escalating. They have prevented more Patricia Hendersons from hurting innocent people. And they do it for free for families who cannot afford protection. The wealthy clients pay enough that Mike can help the families who need it most. It is a business, sure, but it is also a mission. A calling. Last year, Mike told me something I will never forget. We were sitting on my back porch, watching Emma play. He said, "You know what the best part about all of this is? We spent 20 years fighting overseas. Fighting people we never knew in places we never wanted to be. But this? Protecting kids like Emma right here at home? This gives all those years meaning. This is what we were training for all along." He was right. Every mission. Every deployment. Every skill they learned. It was all preparation for this. For protecting the innocent. For standing against bullies. For being the shield between families and those who would harm them. I still have hard days. Days when I think about how close we came to losing Emma. Days when I wonder what would have happened if I had been 5 seconds slower. If the backup oxygen had not been there. If Mike and his crew had not responded so fast. Sarah sees it in my eyes on those days. She holds my hand and reminds me that Emma is here. She is alive. She is thriving. We won. But some victories come with scars that never fully heal. Emma does not remember all the details of that day anymore. Her young mind has protected her by blurring the worst parts. She remembers being scared. She remembers the Black Hawks. She remembers Uncle Mike and his friends showing up like heroes from a movie. She does not remember the feeling of suffocating. The panic of not being able to breathe. The terror of thinking she might die. I am grateful for that. Some things children should not have to carry. Last month, we visited Patricia in prison. Not because she asked. Not because we wanted to. But because Emma asked if Miss Patricia was sorry.